Hello, and welcome to Radio NIGP. It's Public Procurement Month, a time to recognize the people powering progress behind the scenes. Because procurement isn't just paperwork, it's possibility. It's thinking differently, building smarter partnerships, stretching every public dollar further. This month, we celebrate the professionals who turn process into progress and make communities stronger every day. Public procurement, thinking differently and delivering better. So grab your drink of choice, sit back and enjoy this episode of Radio NIGP.
Hello and welcome back to Hot Topics on Radio NIGP. I'm Kevin Yin. Joining with us here are Don Buffum, Denise Finn, and Charlie Russell. Just a quick note, welcome Denise to our Hot Topics. Yay! So today's discussion all about how we got to where we are today in this procurement profession. Many of us did not choose public procurement as profession, but along the journey, we discovered this profession and have fallen in love with it, and it for me, it has done. It's an amazing profession, and I wouldn't trade anything else for it. Don, what do you think?
Well, I want to kind of counter what you said. You said we didn't choose it. Well, going back to something Debbie Trueblood, the new CEO of NIGP, said recently, that she had heard people talk about how they fell into procurement. And she wanted us to change that, which it implies a negative, reaction type thing. And, it hit me that, we need to change the way we think. I didn't fall into procurement. You fall into a well or you fall off of a bike. It's an accident. It's a mistake. I had opportunities to go have different jobs when I came out of college. I worked for a year as a consultant for my fraternity traveling the country, but then I decided I needed a real job. So I applied, and I got like 57, well, let's put it this way, north of 50 rejection letters. I got offered to work as a chemical salesman. So what I did, I went into training and I went and did chemical sales for about 1.5 days. And I said, this is not for me. I can't do this. Okay, so then I got another job selling cigarettes. Well, I went out with a guy and he showed me what I was going to be doing. You take your competitor's cigarettes off the top shelf and you put them down in the bottom, and you put yours right there at the top level where people can see it. And then you take down their signs and you put up your signs. And I got back to my little 800 or 500 square foot apartment and said, I can't do that. First of all, it's dishonest. Second of all, I'm not really I don't really support the smoking cigarettes. But then I got a job in purchasing. And no, I didn't know a lot about it. But when I did, I met people that I liked. I was doing something I enjoyed doing. I was helping other state agencies get the things that they wanted to get. I was learning about new products, different things that I'd never even heard about before. It was exciting every day. So I chose to stay in purchasing. I didn't fall into it. I chose it. Denise, what are your thoughts?
That's a really good point, Don. I actually chose it also because I went to my education, my background was in business and accounting, which is beneficial in procurement. But when I went for my work study after I graduated, they put me in a back room with a computer and a calculator and a bunch of papers. And they said, we'll see you in 8 hours. And I went, whoa, wait. I'm going to be here by myself for 8 hours. I can't be here by myself for 8 hours. This doesn't work for me. So while I was deciding what I wanted to be when I grew up, I accepted a temporary job to help an explosives company get their ISO 9001 certification. And this was up in Canada. And while I was there one day, I was watching what everybody else was doing, and I thought it was really interesting how the raw materials buyer was buying things that was going to create something that was going to explode. And people paid for this because we were in a mining community. And I thought, hey, she's got a really cool job. And one day she got frustrated and she walked out. And the office manager looked over at me and said, Denise, can you do that job? And I went, oh, yes, I can do that job. I could do that job every day of the week. So I started. And then when I moved down to the States, that's when I found public procurement. And the passion that I felt for blowing things up was even stronger for helping people and bringing people together. And the people that I've met in the last years in procurement have been amazing. I mean, I have so many friends. I have an extended family. If there's anything you need, there's always somebody to reach out and talk to. And there's always somebody that will pat you on the back or, wipe the tears off your cheek. And I think the people in public procurement are just as important, if not more important than what we actually do, because we have a support system like nowhere else I've ever seen, no other profession that I've ever seen. And when I talk to other people about it in other, even other departments within the city, they say, wow, like that's really cool. We don't do that in our associations. We don't have that.
It is
So I
amazing, isn't
choose.
it?
It
It is
is.
amazing. The connection is amazing.
It is.
And
So I
and
choose the passion and I choose the people every day,
wow.
even on
Well,
weekends sometimes.
well, Denise, I'm going to cut you off because I disagree. I disagree because I don't want to meet all you people. I don't want to get to know you. That is such an added benefit in being in our world, in our public purchasing geeks, right? Is just building that network, building that family of procurement people is just awesome. And when I first started, I actually was an intern, not in purchasing, but I was an intern for the Ohio Auditor's Office in the mailroom. And going to school and then being, it just worked. It just worked for me. But then we had this thing called a computer, and I'm like, well, I need to start probably learning about this thing called a computer and just get more, understanding of what it is. So then I actually moved from the mailroom to finance. Now I still wasn't in procurement. Um, I was more on the electronic funds transfer side for Medicaid and things like that. Um, but then I moved over to the Ohio Attorney General's office. And there I started as the fixed asset manager. I mean, I was going around and tagging computers and, BCI equipment and trucks and you know what. But eventually I moved into a role as the office services supervisor. And part of that role when I was at the Attorney General's office, I had to purchase vehicles. I had to purchase copiers, mailing machines, folders, things like that. And I didn't know what I was doing. And so I started asking around. They go, well, we have a state contract for that. Well, what the heck's a state contract? I'm still not in purchasing. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I knew somebody told me to go to the state contract. Okay. Well, years later, I left the Ohio Attorney General's office, and that was in Columbus, Ohio. I made my way back to Cleveland, Ohio, where I was from, and I needed a job. And I had some of this purchasing experience working with, buying vehicles and things like that. And at Cleveland Metro Parks, they were looking for something called a buyer. Well, what the hell's a buyer? I don't know what a buyer is. So I started looking at the job description. I'm like, well, I kind of bought from the state of Ohio. I know what I'm doing a little bit, and I could learn. I was young at heart still, and I wanted to learn things. So I applied for it. So I chose to apply for that buyer position. Or better yet, I think actually purchasing found me. It brought me back to Cleveland, which I wanted to do. Yes, I had no idea what a bid was. Well, so then I started taking classes through NIGP. Um, I took it with our good friend Kevin Yin. Ooh, and that's what you do. Every time you have a class with Kevin Yin, ooh, that's a joke between him and I. But you learn so much from the faces you're seeing right now because they teach classes, and a whole bunch of other people like David Nash and all of our good friends out there. But I feel like purchasing found me. Yes, I wanted to make it back home to Cleveland, and how I got back home because I found this job with Cleveland Metro Parks as a buyer, and it found me, and I love it. I love what I do now because I'm giving back. I'm giving back to the taxpayers. I'm giving back to the community. I'm helping my stakeholders run a sufficient park system. And soon to be, and you guys don't know this, but starting March 9th, I'm going to be working for now the city of Cleveland. So then I'm going to be able to give back to the citizens of Cleveland, which is awesome, to show the best value. And it's awesome. And we could just keep going on and on, but we only have 5 minutes, so I guess we need to cut this short.
So
but I love what I do, and I feel like purchasing actually found me, and then I chose to continue with that.
that's awesome, and that's it's the angelic sound when we're all talking procurement language. So, and that's the angel singing in the background.
Jesus.
So,
That's crazy.
and as you can see from the various folks here talking about their path of getting to the procurement world, I think we have to look at it from a life journey perspective, and along the way we discover different paths that led us to where we are today, and I think that's the important part. But the other important piece to this is that once we found this path, we loved it. We stuck with it. We carry with us this passion to be the best procurement professionals that we can be. And I think that's the valuable theme behind this, is that um, rather than thinking from the perspective that we somehow fell into something that negatively impact us, we discover a path that led us to this profession that we have enjoyed and loved for many years, and that's the thinking that we're trying to get everyone to think to change, is the way we think about how we got here to this procurement professional arena, and why we're still here. And that's because the passion, the love, the people that we connect with, and this community is, and this community is just, it's very supportive. And if you're not in that, if you're not feeling that, I would recommend that you reach out to one of us, and we're
Oh,
going
Charlie.
to, yeah, no, Charlie, no, but yeah, reach out to any of us, and we will get you to where we are today. And so, thank you.
Hey, Kevin, real quick. Actually, I want to say one last thing. I'm going to jump into that. Why not?
Yeah.
So I gotta do a quick little plug. For those that know, NIGP's forum is going to be in the great state of Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio. OH. There we go. IO. Come on, we'll all do it. But it's going to be in the great state of Ohio. And something that started, and I think, Denise, you might have said this, but about being a student. So one of the awesome things that we're going to continue at Forum in Columbus this year is it was Carl Benito and Zuli and Belinda with NIGP. They started that student engagement. So once again, we're going to continue to do that. And we're reaching out not just to the good state, the good university, Ohio State University, but all the universities, in the surrounding area of Columbus. and also throughout Ohio to see if any students want to participate. So we are doing that outsourcing again, that not outsourcing, but that outreach to try to get students involved and see what we do, the awesome job that we do, and the awesome things that we do. So we're trying to get that back, not trying, but we're going to get that back, and we're going to get these students and hopefully get some time down the road, give them an internship somewhere, who knows. But my quick plug is Columbus, Ohio, forum, students, and we're also going to give away some scholarships too. So I think that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That
Awesome,
is
Charlie.
really awesome.
Nice shameless plug. And with that, thank you for joining the Radio NIGP. See you next time. Bye.
OH.
Good afternoon, everybody. Kurt Buffington here from Radio NIGP. And this morning, I'm really happy to introduce, once again, Carrie Winter, our Director of Events and Program Delivery. And we are going to talk for just a few minutes about the NIGP Forum in 2026 in Columbus, Ohio.
Woohoo!
Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
let's
Go ahead.
start with Columbus.
Okay. Yeah, let's.
What's
Let's get
Tell us
excited.
what's exciting about Columbus.
So if you've not been to Columbus in recent years, and I haven't been, and I won't age myself, but it was my very first forum many, many moons ago.
Yep.
And it has changed significantly. The local planning committee has produced a really great video to kind of give you some insight into what Columbus has to offer. It's probably one of the best convention cities, I think, in the country,
Wow.
because it's walkable. There's so much to do. There's sports, there's art, there's theater, and everything is within walking distance of the convention center. There's a really cool market nearby that you can go and you can get Greek food or Polish food or, Japanese food or, spices. I mean, it's a really cool town. It's won a lot of accolades in the last few years for being best small city. They were recognized for their food scene in the last 2 years. So really, I encourage everybody to think differently and check it out.
Sure.
And know that this is a destination. If you go to Forum because you want to experience a new cool town or city that you've never been to before, or even if you have not been in a while, this is the one to go.
This is it. Good. Great. Well, for you to say as many conventions that you have programmed and administered, for you to say that Columbus is one of the friendliest, best convention cities that you've ever been to, that says a lot, because I know what you've done over the last 25 years. So all right. So a little bit about Forum.
Yeah. So early registration opened
There
yesterday.
you go.
So super excited
saw it.
about that. So if you want to get that early bird rate, you want to get that done before May 31st. So that's the deadline to get your early registration. We do have an incentive this year. If you attended virtually last year, you might know that we had a few technical difficulties that were beyond our control within the building. And so we are offering a loyalty discount for those of you who attended virtually to come back and participate virtually at a lower rate. And that'll automatically show up when you go back in to register for 2026. So we're excited we're going to do a few things differently this year so that we mitigate the risk on the technical side. But everything will be either live streamed and or recorded. So we're not live streaming everything this year, but we are recording everything. So you'll have an opportunity to choose, if you're participating virtually, from 4 sessions that are happening live, but we're running 9. And so you can go back and watch everything else on demand. So we are trying some new things to try to mitigate risk on any of that. But hopefully it will all go as planned. When you do things live, you just never know. But
Right.
do come back and try us again if you participated virtually last year and are unsure about coming back.
Well, I think it's great that you're offering that. I was doing some sessions that were being live streamed, and Technology is great when it works.
Exactly.
And when it doesn't, so.
And when the internet's
that's
working
great.
and the internet service providers are working, it's all good. But when
Yeah.
they go down, there's nothing you can do about it, right?
That's right. So the recorded, they're generally available up till 60 days after the session, after the forum. So
Correct.
if you do want to get a recording, folks, keep that in mind. 60 days later, they're going to be off. So
Yep.
All right. So I know we talked briefly. The special event is still in the planning stages.
Correct.
So we will come back together in a couple of months, and we'll talk more detail about the special event, because that's always a big draw. And I do remember Columbus. We were there, obviously, at the same time. That's the last time we were there. But I've heard a lot of good things from Barbara, obviously. She loves Columbus.
Yes, she does.
So early registration opened yesterday. Early registration is good until May 31st.
Correct.
Columbus is a great city to go visit.
It is.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
So my colleague Chanda is going to come on, I think, next month and talk a little bit more about the content. We are in the process of finalizing sessions and keynotes, so there'll be more information coming on that. I also want to mention that I think this year we are planning on doing some pre-forum courses. We haven't done that in a few years.
A long time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And so our plan is to announce that within the next week or two, because we want people to have the opportunity to have that all together when they would register. So okay, I'm going to register. Oh, there's this class on Saturday I want to take. So we're going to get that information out in the next couple of weeks. It will be, I believe we're doing 4. And we are doing special pricing for forum attendees. So if you're attending forum and you want to tag on another one-day opportunity for learning, we will have that information out on our website in the next couple of weeks, I'd say. So that's something that we're trying that's a little bit new and different. And we're trying some other new things, but it's all about the surprise and delight. So if you're coming to Columbus, you'll see those, and we are trying some new things with virtual as well. We plan on doing more networking. We've heard that from people who participated, that they don't have that opportunity to connect so much with people. So we will have networking rooms where you can actually have a conversation like you and I are having. You can be on camera and be in the networking room and have that conversation. So that's one thing that we're bringing to the fold for virtual. And then we're tossing around a few other things that Chanda will talk about, or I'll talk about again when we come back together in a couple of months. So we are trying some new and different things. And so you might see a little bit of a makeover for Forum.
Good.
Just little tidbits.
Good. Well, as you know, having taken part in the survey that you all did last year, I know that you're really trying to take action on the survey results. And
Absolutely.
I think that's great.
I
love the idea of the pre-forum workshops coming back. I mean, those are, in my mind, those are always a big draw. So I'm glad to see at least, that's an idea. But otherwise, it really sounds, I'm excited. Of course, I'm always excited.
The survey that we did, I mean, we got a lot of really good information. So thanks to everybody who participated in that. And Chanda did some focus groups. She and I talked to a lot of members. So you'll see that the content particularly is very member driven based on the results that we got from those focus groups and the surveys. So I'm excited. We're trying some new stuff, and Chanda's going to get into that. The content management committee met this week and making their final choices. So it's all coming together. Our plan is to have that, our schedule and the session announcements and the speakers and all that by the end of March, so that you'll have plenty of time to take a look at that. We have a justification toolkit on our website if you need some help getting approval from your supervisor. We've given you some tools to use. It's called, I think, the how-to kit, I believe is what we've called it. And so that's out there on our website now. So if you're looking for some fuel for your fire to get some your financial support and approval, that's a good place to start. And then we'll have that schedule up, which you'll be able to say, hey, look, there's 20 things on here that I really need, and I need to be at this conference. So we're excited.
Good. Well, I'm excited just talking to you. All right. So thank you so much for your time, Carrie.
My pleasure.
Radio NIGP, look forward. Carrie and I will be back together in a couple of months prior to the end of Early Bird, just to have some more detail about particularly the special event, whatever that ends up being. But otherwise, Carrie, thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. And this is Radio NIGP.
Hi, Ryan. Are you ready for forum?
Ready. Donna, I'm emotionally ready, but logistically, I'm a loose collection of questions wearing a blazer. Between traveling, costs, and just getting my boss to say yes, I'm a little overwhelmed.
Well, perfect. Overwhelmed is good.
Excuse me?
I mean, questions are good, right? If you have questions about travel or budget or getting coverage, let's talk about it. Let's remove some of those barriers for you.
Oh, I love removing barriers, sort of like removing snacks on a conference table, which I will be doing.
Yeah, let's get you to Columbus.
Okay, so step one, Donna, how do I actually get there? I'm picturing in my head like a travel montage, and it's pretty chaotic right now.
Well, let's replace your chaos with a plan. So you pick your travel mode, you're flying, you're driving, you're taking a bus, and then you build a 3-line plan. Arrival, hotel, daily commute. That's it.
That's suspiciously simple.
It's procurement. We love things that are simple and hold up under pressure.
Perfect. So let's get started then with getting there first. Flying seems so easy, especially when you're coming further out, with Columbus Airport right there ready to go, as well as Cleveland and Cincinnati both having airports to say if you wanted to extend your trip or to spend more time exploring the state. There's a lot of options, as well as Akron and some other regionals. I better start looking at flights right now with all these options then, Donna, to lock in my best price.
Ryan, you live in Cleveland. Why would you fly?
That's right. I do live in Cleveland. So looks like I'm driving. And Donna, did you know that something like 48% of the country's population is within 500 miles of Columbus?
And I would drive 500 miles and I would drive 500
Donna,
more just to... What?
I don't think we paid for that license.
Oh, I thought you were gonna... We'll do it next time.
Next time, for sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Driving is very convenient for a lot of people, but folks that are farther away are going to need to fly. If you fly into Columbus or any one of the other regional airports, Columbus, you're going to be able to take like our Coda buses or a ride share or a taxi to get downtown. But you may choose to do a rental car. If you need to do that, just be sure to check for, how to not be rushing to get where you're going. Leave yourself some wiggle room, time to pick everything up. But you may not even need a car just because everything here is so walkable.
That is wonderful and noted on that. So once I'm found myself then to Columbus, I can either fly. Well, we've decided that I'm going to be driving, but our conference attendees have the availability to fly or drive or take a bus should they choose. But once we're there in Columbus, where do we stay?
Well, what's handy is that NIGP has gotten some blocks at some really excellent hotels that are downtown. Right now we have the Hyatt Regency, the Hilton Columbus, and Drury Plaza. And often, with enough attendance, there may even be some additional hotels that will open up, which is great because down near our convention center, there are multiple hotels that are in walking distance, usually even 1 or 2 blocks away. Depending on which hotel you pick, you may not even have to go outside to get to the convention center.
Ooh, and you know how lazy I am, so I'm going to have to look for that hotel.
Yeah. And we talked about commute. And that's another handy thing about the convention center. Everything, all the events are going to be inside the convention center. So your only commute is going to be getting to and from your hotel each day. So your biggest problem is just not getting caught in a long elevator line and finding your meals. And there are so many nearby meal options, so you can get yourself fueled and get back to your sessions or to the expo with no time at all.
Okay, so what I'm gathering from this then is getting to Columbus, not even a problem. Pretty simple, pretty easy, lots of options, lots of methods to get there. This has been so helpful, Donna. But now I think I need to go look for some spare funds to make sure I can pay to go. So I'm going to just go look in ye old couch cushions, and I will be right back. Okay, Donna, I'm a little embarrassed. I checked my couch and all I found was $18, a tennis ball for my dog, and a golden arch card, which I'm probably going to use tonight. So forget I even said anything about the golden arch card. But I'm worried about paying for this trip. I live in Ohio, so getting there is the easy part. But registration and hotel, how do I pay for that?
Yeah, well, first thing, there's no need to be embarrassed. Lots of our professional development budgets are being cut, and it's getting harder and harder to get justification for getting money to go to these kind of events. But there are ways to get money. There are funding lanes. You just need to know where to look and how to ask. So the first option is checking to see if your agency or your entity has any kind of professional development dollars. For example, I work for the state of Ohio, and I actually have a program through my union that helps me pay for registrations at conferences like this, which is a huge money saver for me. You just need to look for them. There's all kinds of options. You may not even know that there's something available for you because you haven't had to try and use it before.
So it's like procurement, but for yourself. I'm self-procuring.
Please don't call it that again.
Okay, duly noted.
Lane 2 is your chapter professional development fund. So many of our NIGP chapters have some sort of professional development assistance. Every chapter runs it a little differently, so you'll need to talk to your chapter leadership, find out what's available, what the deadline is, and what information they need from you.
So the move here then is to ask early and be clear with what I'm asking for, and not to send a 12-paragraph email at 11:58 the day before I'm attending conference.
Right. Be
Perfect.
brief, be polite, ask what they need, and turn it in on time.
This seems pretty simple then in terms of funding that's available. Do you have any cost-saving hacks to make the trip even less expensive?
Oh, sure. I mean, first thing is booking early. The early bird registration for Forum ends on May 31st, and the prices will go up. It usually increases by several $100s. So if you're planning to attend, it's a good idea to register in advance. There's lots of travel. You know, if you're traveling with other folks from your agencies, maybe you can find a way to travel together. Maybe you can find a more cost-effective lodging option. Maybe you have family or friends who live in near central Ohio. That could save you some money too.
It sounds like you just kind of helped negotiate my entire budget there, so I appreciate that. But knowing that this year is tight for a lot of folks across the country, tight with budgets, with agencies, with just taxpayer revenues down and expenses up for everyone. Let's say that money just is really, really tight. Are there any other ways to still get to experience the NIGP forum, the content and the programming, perhaps at a less cost?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a virtual option to attend forum. You miss out on the best parts, which are the personal in-person experience, but you still get access to all of the educational quality content that is part of the forum experience. And it is at a much lower price point than the in-person attending. Plus, of course, you're saving on hotel costs and travel costs. So, you know, it's definitely an option for folks who maybe don't have the budget or can't get the time away from the office to attend. And both the virtual and the in-person option allow you to watch the video content for up to 60 days after forum is complete. So you really can get the whole experience through that video option, which is accessible to both registration types.
That is wonderful. Sounds like an opportunity then if folks can't attend in person for financial reasons or whatnot, then there's more people in the office. They could even make it engaging, like having their own little NIGP watch party or creating activities to go around it. That's so very helpful. I'm feeling better on the cost now. I just hope I can get my boss to say yes. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Approved. Yes.
Okay, Donna. So I'm feeling a lot better about getting there. I live in Ohio, so that part's easy. You already told me I can't take a plane, so I'll be driving my car. And I'm feeling a little bit more confident that I can get this funded. I'm going to go back and check with my chapter and see if there's any PDAs available and see what other funding's available. I'm feeling pretty good about that. But I do have to say my final concern is getting my boss to say yes. And how do I prove that this is a worthwhile experience for me to go to? Any suggestions on that?
Oh, that's a good question. My first suggestion is don't ask to attend. Present a business case. Come up with a plan to show your organization that yes is the best answer. Your business case can have 3 parts. First, who's covering while you're gone and how you're going to prevent backlog.
I can already hear my boss going, Ryan, who's going to answer your emails?
Exactly. Answer that question before they ask it.
That's helpful.
Second is a budget plan. Show the information about the registration, the hotel, the travel, plus how you're saving costs, booking early, booking ahead, finding a good alternate housing option, whatever you need to do to save some money for your department.
So then it becomes, it's not trust me, it's here's the math.
Right. Procurement loves math. I mean, I don't. I'm a musician, so I only know how to count to 4, but procurement loves math. And then what will you bring back? Will you have some sort of recap for your leadership? Are you going to have a lunch and learn for your team to talk about some of the things that you learned? Are you going to be looking for process improvements that you can implement? 30, 60, 90-day plan. How are you going to utilize the information that you're going to learn at forum?
So you mean to tell me that I'm not just going to come back with a swag-loaded tote bag and amazing vibes?
I mean, you're going to come back with a tote bag, but you're also coming back with up-to-date procurement insights that will help you and your organization level up.
Ah, I got it. This is the part where I say ROI and everybody nods like we're in a boardroom.
Say it with confidence, Ryan. We all know what these terms mean and we all know how to use them.
Wonderful.
But this sounds daunting. Building a business case, how do I do that? Well, you don't have to do it alone. NIGP has come up with some tools for you to use. Do you want me to show it to you?
I would love for you to show it to me.
Okay, let me share my screen with you. Okay. So, let me know when you can see it.
Oh, this is perfect.
Okay. So, of course, you can go to nigp.org/forum. That's going to take you right to the forum main page. You're going to need this when you register for your hotels. But you're looking for this justification guide. So NIGP has put together a document for you to use to talk with your entity, your department head, whoever you need to talk to about why NIGP Forum is a good investment. So, I'm not going to read this to you. You can download it from the website and look at it, but it talks about the in-person benefits, the virtual benefits. There's some, examples. How do you decide which experience is best for you? Is virtual maybe going to be better for you? Does some of your team want to attend virtually and others are going to go in person? And then there's, again, here's our favorite term, focus on the ROI. How are you going to convince your manager or your CPO to support your attendance? There's lots of information about that. There's also some information about how you can maximize your participation. We talked before about how there's going to be video accessible after the conference. So, you can't be in 5 places at once, but you can come back and watch the videos later on and see some of the content that you didn't catch while you were there. And then, there's even in here, and I'm looking to see, there's even an email template that you can use.
This is perfect.
To talk to your boss about, hey, here's why it's a good idea. Here's my fees. They've put together a lot of tools that you can use, so you don't have to figure out how to do this on your own. You can use this as a guide to help figure out how you're going to convince your boss that going to forum is a good idea. Which it is.
This is absolutely amazing, Donna, and I'm so grateful that NIGP has provided this for us. It really does take the guessing work out of getting my boss and our bosses in general to say yes. And to your point, making them realize that saying yes is the best answer and the only answer. So thank you so much for sharing this with me.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, you can download it from the website.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Donna, for having this conversation with me today. Getting to forum, funding my experience for the first time, and getting my boss to sign off for approval just doesn't seem so daunting anymore. So thank you so much.
Of course. I'm happy to help. And be sure to take care of it early. I don't want to see you filling out your travel forms on my futon the night before.
Donna, do you keep a futon just for first-timers?
I keep wisdom. The futon is optional.
We'll see you at forum.
I'm Ginger Line with Radio NIGP, and I have Alyssa Ellington here with me. Both of us have been chapter ambassadors in the past, and we wanted to think differently. You get to March, you realize it's procurement month, you've done nothing. You have no budget. What can your agency do to recognize your people, and what can your chapter do to recognize your people? What are some things either you've done in the past, Alyssa, or you've heard of chapters or agencies doing that are free or low cost, I guess, is also a big important aspect here.
Yes. We've definitely been in this situation. I feel like it always comes up on us so quickly, and all of a sudden we're like, March is in a couple weeks. So for our chapter, one of my favorites that I think is pretty low cost, and I think it's made an impact in our chapter, is we will go and get donuts and do donut deliveries to different agencies. And one year we also did cookies, like from Crumble. But I think overall it's not super expensive. And we will kind of handpick agencies that maybe we haven't heard a lot from that are on our membership roster. Or we will even pick an agency that is not a member at all. And those are the ones we usually pick. And then we might also throw in one that's super involved, and we just go meet with them, bring them donuts, give them a brochure, and talk to them about procurement month and say, happy procurement month. So that's what I really like.
I love that idea. I would definitely not hate it if someone brought me donuts.
Right?
And I was thinking of what chapters could do too. And some chapters do this regularly throughout the year. But if you don't, you can send out an email and highlight a member or an agency and kind of talk about those feel good stories. What did they do in procurement that was extra special? Maybe, Minnesota has hosted the Super Bowl. And so maybe you could, talk about that agency and all of the work that they had to do. Things like that really highlights the person and the member of the chapter, but also the significance of public procurement. So I think that's a great idea as well. And again, that one's virtually free. It does take some time, but typically you can pull that together fairly quickly as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and another thing, if your chapter members get certifications or things like that, to post about it. Again, if you haven't done it throughout the year, maybe it is, hey, what has the chapter done this year? And really talk up what you've done. Sometimes you have to toot your own horn a little bit, What kind of things have your agency done for that free or low cost for procurement month?
We're kind of in the last minute situation right now, but we had this idea. I think it was something I heard from another chapter or agency or another agency. But anyway, And we are thinking about doing an open house for our end users, all of our different departments, and have them drop by and provide cake. And then also maybe have like just a slideshow showing pictures from different projects that we've done this year. And just talk about procurement and procurement month. A lot of them probably don't even know about it. So, yeah, so that's our idea that we're going to hopefully pull off before March is over.
I love it. People come for cake or donuts. I think that's a great way because those end users will see some of their projects too, right? That's a
Yep.
project from both sides. So to be able to have them come in there and see their work, that's kind of cool. I think they'll take some ownership of that as well. I like that idea.
Yeah.
At Sourcewell, we actually did this in November, so not for procurement month, but November is all about being thankful with Thanksgiving in the United States. Sorry, Canadians. And we actually went to the departments that we work with closely, and we asked. It was typically, their manager or director or things like that, but you could really ask any of them. And we wanted them to create just a short minute or two video about how procurement affects them. Obviously, this is a positive thing, not a negative video. But we really got great videos from these departments. And I do think it even helped build relationships between the different departments. And I really liked it. We heard really great things. And so that's definitely something you could do for procurement month as well. You're really only showing that to the procurement department, but I think it's a great way to build those relationships.
I love that idea.
Yeah. And on the food note, you could have a potluck, right? That's low cost. And I know
Yep.
some people don't like potlucks because you don't know, people's houses or kitchens or whatever, but I do think that's a good option. And you could have a theme, even whatever that may be. Try to have it the cheapest. Ooh, that's a good one.
There you
Procurement
go.
related. $5 or less. I don't even know if you can make anything for $5 anymore, but that'd be kind of cool. Um, just, to have that event with just the procurement department, of course. Um, and there's still something to be said of the thank you note, right? Especially if it's handwritten. A lot of people work from home. I work from home, so it would have to be mailed to my house. So that is some cost. But my manager sent out a nice email to all of her staff, and this was on Employee Appreciation Day, but again, same concept. And it was very much, you could tell she put in the time and the effort to write and draft that thank you email in that case, and really made it specific to me. And I thought that was so sweet. And there's just something to be said about a nice little thank you note.
Yeah, I totally agree. We do thank you cards throughout the year, but do them specifically in procurement month. I think that's awesome. Go out of your
You
way. It
do?
shows,
Right. Do you
some
do the
time.
thank you notes to the departments too, or just the people in the procurement department?
Oh well, we just send them randomly. Like we had some made a while back, and so we try to just keep in mind like any time that would be a great opportunity to send a personal thank you card. But yeah, like I sent one to one of my project managers in our operations department after we finished a big project together, just thanking him for how awesome he was to work with. Things like that, I think, make a big difference.
Yeah, I love that. And I would guess that he's going to be more willing to work with you, because you sent a simple thank you note. I mean, what
Yep.
a easy, simple thing to do.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Everybody listening today should comment below the video if you have any free or low cost ideas to share, or go to Insight and post it there. We really appreciate it. So happy Procurement Month.
Happy Procurement Month.
Hello, I'm Christy Varda. I'm one of the regular contributors to Radio NIGP, typically in Construction Junction. But today I'd like to talk to you about thinking differently when it comes to negotiations. I recently attended a webinar on soft skills for procurement professionals. This webinar was hosted by somebody on LinkedIn who I've been following for quite some time. His name is Tom Mills, He's labeled as a procurement protagonist. He promotes the procurement profession and actually used to work in procurement on the private sector side. So as we're thinking about thinking differently, maybe we can learn something from our private sector colleagues that we're not using in the public sector. One of the key points is negotiations. Historically, the way negotiations have been taught to people in public procurement is getting to the yes, right? Which means a win-win situation for everyone. Tom actually mentioned a book that he uses in his soft skills course that he actually holds in regards to negotiations. The book is called Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depends on It by Chris Voss. I've been listening to it recently, and I thought it was important to relay this to you guys, just simply because it makes you think differently. Some of the key principles covered in the book are tactical empathy, understanding and acknowledging the counterpart's perspective to build trust and influence. Active listening and mirroring. We do this every day when we're talking about negotiating and when we're actually doing soft skills, right? So repeating the last few words of a person's statement can encourage them to open up or reveal critical information. Labeling emotions, identifying and verbalizing. Seems that you're frustrated. Or, I know we really want to get this contract awarded. How can we help this come to fruition, right? Like I mentioned, that we historically are trying to get to the yes, but Chris Voss mentions the power of no. That hearing no is not a failure, but an opportunity. It's an opportunity to clarify, adjust, and continue the negotiation. He talks a little bit about black swans, being alert for that unexpected information that can dramatically change your outcome. And fairness framing, which I'm currently listening to right now in chapter 6 of the book, about the concept of fairness to strategically influence perceptions. The author of this book was a former FBI negotiator, and maybe from procurement's perspective, we could think differently and start applying some of the tools he offers in this book to help us be successful for our contracts and our public entities. Just a few thoughts. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Have a great day.
Hi, friends. This March, we turn the spotlight on the visionaries of value, the procurement professionals whose dedication transforms those abstract budgets into tangible community progress. Public procurement is the steady hand that builds the future, ensuring that every dollar spent is a bridge to a better tomorrow. It's the art of strategic stewardship, where integrity meets innovation to keep our cities thriving and our essential services resilient. This month, we honor those who have chosen a path of purpose, a career defined by transparency, equity, and a relentless commitment to the public good. You are the architects of the supply chain, the master negotiators, and the guardians of accountability who work tirelessly behind the scenes to deliver excellence. Your impact is felt in every safe road, every modern classroom, and every life touched by the services you secure. Procurement Month is a tribute to your expertise, your passion, and the quiet power of a profession that doesn't just buy things, it builds communities. We are so thankful that you have discovered procurement. Continue to choose it with pride. Until next time, happy Procurement Month, friends.
Hi, I'm Don Buffum with Radio NIGP. This is a special edition, after hours edition of Radio NIGP. I've got my friends Linda Allaire and Jack Pellegrino here. And in line with what we're talking about this year is thinking about things differently. I want to talk about contract management a little bit differently. Historically, purchasing people have done a really good job of doing the research, writing the specifications, doing the solicitation, making sure we had plenty of suppliers responding. we got the proposal or bids in. We did a great evaluation. We signed a contract. And then what do? We hand the contract or purchase over to the using department and say, good luck with it. And when we start praying, it reminds me of when my kids turned 16 and they got their driver's license and I handed them the keys to the car. And it was the same thing. They were going off. I didn't know what was going to happen. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I've never gotten a call that said, Mr. Buffalo, this is Officer Brown. Your son is doing a really good job of driving right now, and I just wanted you to know about it. No, the only time you hear something is when you get that phone call and it's, Dad, I wrecked the car, right? Well, that's the way it is with our client departments. We lay it all out for them. We give them a great contract, and then 3 months later, 6 months later, or next time we decide we're going to enter into a contract, they're sitting there, no, that vendor's crazy. They're terrible. Well, hopefully better contract management might be able to take care of that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And what we're going to talk about is NCMA, which is a couple of letters, and CMS. What are an NCMA and a CMS? Well, Jack, why don't you give us some background on what the NCMA is, okay?
Well, thank you, Don, and Linda. It's always a pleasure to be on the show with you. NCMA, National Contract Management Association. Believe it or not, I've been a member for 42 years of NCMA. NCMA, like NIGP, is an association that is focused on procurement professionals, contracting professionals. NCMA has over 100,000 contract professionals worldwide, globally. What is a little bit different from NIGP and NCMA is NCMA has always been open for membership for providers. So, for example, that's why I've been a member for 40 some years, because when I came out of college and got my first job in government procurement, I worked as a contractor for a small little company called TRW and Used Aircraft, and then SAIC. And I've always been part of the NCMA ecosystem. And so they were the ecosystem we went to get education, professional education in the government procurement organization. And likewise, that's what NIGP is all about with our competency, with the great training that we've. So really, the blending of the two organizations is really outstanding in my view now.
New way of thinking.
It is.
Linda, what is the CMS?
Well, the CMS is the contract management standard. And it actually came into being, first edition was 2019, if I remember correctly. And it followed the need for, well, like we have for our own global best practices, a standard process for people to work through. Now, when I started looking at material coming out of the NCMA, that standard didn't exist. And when you're thinking about contract management, as procurement professionals, we're deeply embedded up to the contract execution. But the contract administration is a different component, which many procurement professionals are not involved in for one reason or another. You know, we throw that contract over the wall to somebody out there in a client department, and we hope, as you said, Don, that they know what they're doing and they're actually administering the contract and following the contractor's performance and dealing with, potential disputes, making sure that we're getting what we pay for. But that's not always the case. So this contract management standard starts right from initiating the need, identifying the need, and going right through to contract closeout. And in my experience, the contract administration portion is something that public entities do not do well. In fact, a lot of times we don't even think about it. And when you get to the point of contract closeout, making sure that everything is paid and everybody's got the stuff they came with, taking it back, and that you actually, in the case of a lease, if you did a lease to own, that you paid the money so you actually get title. And that's not always the case.
Linda, when did you start using the CMS?
Well, I started using the CMS right from the first edition because, quite frankly, I started using National Contract Management Association information long before the CMS ever existed.
Okay.
I had colleagues and friends who were project managers, and they made me aware of all sorts of different publications. And I used to get publications from all over the place, the maintenance magazines and whatever, because it was about things I was buying. And they made me aware that the National Contract Management Association had a magazine. So I signed up for a free subscription, probably back in the early 80s when I first started as a procurement agent. And I read those articles. They were very informative because when I talked to colleagues, when contracts fell apart, it was because something hadn't been identified at the front end, so it didn't exist in the contract language. And now they're trying to clean up something that they didn't think about at the front end. And now they're dealing with it at the back end and probably have to do, if they can, a contract amendment to be able to, get past that and make it a successful contract in the long run. But there's all sorts of information out there that may not be procurement specifically, but it relates to the whole continuum of the, identify the need right through to the contract closeout, and then what happens if we go back out to market again, because it's a learning opportunity to get better as we go. It's like debriefing our suppliers, right?
Yeah. Jack, what about you? What's your background with the CMS? When did you become aware of it, or?
Well, let's see. I became aware of it when I was asked by NCMA to be on the board that took it forward to make it a global standard, the consensus board, and that was comprised of it was quite a wonderful experience because it was comprised of professionals, both sellers and buyers, globally. So our colleagues from the UK, Australia, because it is a global profession. And Don, in kind of the time is right for us to think more globally, and also for us to think, like Linda said, beyond just procurement. Because in my career, now I have had half of my career as a seller when I was representing the aerospace industry companies that I worked for, the TRWs, used aircraft, SAICs. I was a seller to the government. And then the last part of my career, the other 20 some years, has been being a buyer. And what's really cool is I'm a better buyer because I was a seller, and sellers are better able to meet the government's needs if they know how we think and what our processes are, Linda. And that, I think, is the real power of now the CMS. Because when you read it, it will talk about best practices both as a seller and as a buyer. And if all of us, when we go to buy anything in our personal life, we do a better job in buying if we think a little bit like the sellers that we're going to be interfacing with, whether it be remodeling your house or whether it be, we would do some research, and and I think that's what I'm most excited about is, the CMS and comprising not just one side of the contract deal. And like Linda, you point out, in the public world, we put a good contract in place, but do we really monitor it well?
I think what you're talking about, the buyer and seller, I mean, we all know that the more information we have, the better decisions we can make. But if we're only looking at half of the information out there, how can we make a good decision? But if you have all the information, the buyer side, the seller side, uh, and coordinate and work together, we can make better decisions for everybody. Linda, when you first implemented, was there anything you had to do with your department or your entity to prepare them for using this new standard, or did you just jump in and tell them this is what we're doing?
Well, actually, when I was flying a procurement desk, this standard didn't exist because I retired before it came into being. But I used the contract management magazines as part of my rationale when I was dealing with clients to say, look, this is what's happening as far as contract management goes. Here's some of the issues. Here's the way it can fall apart. Here's how you can end up in court if you don't think about this stuff. So with the standard coming out, it actually simplified life because it's now in one nice, neat little package. If you go to the National Contract Management Association website and download the 4th edition, I think it's 20 pages long, lots of graphics. I use it in classes when I'm teaching contract management and sourcing and contracting as well, because as Jack said, it clearly identifies, who's responsible for certain portions. Sometimes it's the seller, sometimes it's the buyer, and sometimes it's joint. So it simplified things just by having that template to follow. And when it came out, I've suggested to people who are still in procurement, people that I've known for some years and some not as much, look at the standard, use it as a training tool. I use it in my classes. They can use it with their client departments. And most of them say, I didn't even know this existed. So I was glad to hear when NIGP said we're adopting the standard. And that was back when I think it was edition number 3. So number 4 was tweaked a little bit, but the guts of it has basically remained pretty much the same. But it's a great checklist for someone who's a procurement person, and especially if you're doing something complex, go through the listings for all the different segments and check off whether or not you've addressed that stuff. Because sometimes there are things in there that may not even have been in your radar, maybe because of your experience level, maybe because of the way your entity operates, and you can bring some fresh light to it. And it's a great tool when you're dealing with your executives and your management staff. You know what? This isn't just me telling you this. This is a contract management standard, ANSI certified. It's got credibility to it.
That's incredible. Yeah, Jack, what about you? When you left the private sector, came in, I guess County of San Diego,
Yeah. County of San Diego.
and did you bring this concept to them?
I did. It was not formalized yet, but one of the first tasks I had at the County of San Diego was to put a contract management system in place, a monitoring system in place. Because Linda, to your point, we were doing the purchasing side, getting a contract awarded to maybe a nonprofit entity or a business, maybe a small business, but we weren't managing post, and the departments weren't I'll call it trained on best practices of how well that's purchasing's job to monitor the contract. Well, no, wait a minute, purchasing's not. We don't know to the same depth and detail what the outcome should be that you should as the department. So that was the first task I had when I came to the county, is put in this contracts management system. It's still in use today, both at Health and Human Services, which is the biggest part of our spend, as well as then we put a contract academy in place, which used a lot of the concepts in CMS as it evolved. So it really has helped the entity, the public entity, my public entity, and that's why I'm excited about it, because too often we need to be helping our organizations apply for business and take those funds, but also to execute those businesses on the other side. So if we're not on that execution side, have we really moved the needle for our organization? So like I said, I've been on both sides. I think I'm a better buyer because I've been a seller, and I would be a better seller because I understand, Linda as a buyer, what she needs for her to be successful.
Linda, in your perspective, what are the major benefits of using the contract management standard? What are the biggest benefits to an organization, do you think?
Well, I think it feeds into, our primary focus: open, fair, transparent processes, consistency. And if we're looking at our own policies and procedures, are they sufficient to cover the contract administration? Because quite often those things don't even exist for contract administration. That there's all the stuff around sourcing and executing the contract and who signs off, but the stuff about what happens after the contract is in place and you're into the supplier's performance doesn't even exist.
Right.
So if that's a huge gap and you look at that standard and you look at your own policies and procedures, you can start to think about how to better align them and make sure that you enhance that transparency and consistency. A contract closeout. And I go back to that because when I started working at the hospital and we were looking for room to store stuff, and I went into one of our storage rooms and it's full of old copier equipment. And I went, my God, what are these doing here? And they said, oh, those are the old ones. And I said, so do we own them? And they went, well, yeah, I guess so. Well, no, we didn't actually. We had leased them, and it was a lease to own, but we never paid our $10. I finally found the contract, but we had never paid our $10 to own them. But I didn't know that until after I had already cleaned out the room and disposed of.
Wow.
Linda, to your point, and Don, to kind of close this thought on CMS, it's written in such a way that it will bring up areas that you probably are not doing or have even thought of, like closeout too. It's the full life cycle, right? For the organization's success. But it's not written so detailed that you still have, and it expects that you're going to put your own operating procedures and protocols and the nuances of your business under it. Right, Linda? So that's why you said it's not very long, but it has I'll call it the large umbrella that covers it.
Yeah, it provides a framework and a consistent framework. And that's the biggest advantage, I think, to me and to any students that I've had in classes. It provides a framework because if you don't know what you don't have, it helps you identify those gaps and gives you an idea of how you move forward to improve and get better. And it lets you, maybe get to more understanding with your suppliers, what they expect from us, what we expect from them. So, and I hate the word partners because partners to me, having talked to a lot of lawyers, that has whole piles of liability issues around it that we don't want to even get into. But if you're setting up a long-term contract with a supplier, it's a strategic alliance to me. Mm-hmm. So it's strategic because it benefits both sides. But if you've got a framework that helps you build that, you're likely going to be more successful. So your rate of success, and I saw it in my own career when I started to apply this, the rate of success of contracts went up exponentially. We spent more time at the front end figuring out what was going to happen at the back end. And we had a reduction in disputes. We had a reduction in, interpretations of the contract because we implemented kickoff meetings. A lot of things that we had never done before that we started to put in place. And when I suggested it to staff and the project manager was like, yeah, we don't need that. But after the first couple, they started to see the benefits, and the working relationship with the supplier was much smoother. Performance was better. Less disputes, less confrontations, less misunderstandings. Life was better for everybody on both sides of the table.
You probably had contractors that wanted to work with you rather than say, oh my gosh, I don't want to work with the government. They're
Well,
two,
I hope so.
right?
Yeah. Well, it just jumped out at me that it was telling us all those things. You know how we always say we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
Well, it helps you know what you don't know, or at least have some ideas about what you don't know. And then more than anything else, it assigns responsibility so that it's not a matter of, oh, well, who's going to take care of that? It's taken care of.
Yeah.
So, and as far as the length of it, yeah, it's fairly easy. It's an easy read. I read it on the airplane, and we were barely off the ground before I finished it because it was quick and easy.
You're in taxi mode, right?
Yeah, it's all, and it's, to me, it was kind of like aha moments, that, well, yeah, those are things that we're not doing in so many of our, departments and cities and counties and universities, et cetera, all across the country. So I found it to be really interesting. And is there anything else either of you wanted to say about it before we close?
No, thanks for this opportunity to talk a little bit about CMS, and I think it meets our theme of looking to the future and thinking differently. And I thank you for calling us together.
Linda,
and I think it's a very good concrete depiction of how we build relationships with our suppliers. We get out of that silo. This is procurement and this is what we do. There may be others out there who, have good stuff that we can leverage once we become aware of it. So I would suggest that the first thing that people do is go to the National Contract Management Association. Just Google them, it comes up. And the standard, I believe, comes up right on the face page now. It didn't used to, it was fourth button over. But if you just search for the contract management standard, it's an easy read. And there are lots of graphs. It's very pictorial. So you're not just reading dry text.
Yeah.
So for me, when I had a problem child, I would pick out that particular part that they had a problem with and show them that particular page. So great learning tool, great assistive device, great checklist. Make sure that you've covered everything when you're doing, setting up your solicitation document.
Fantastic. Thank you both. And for Radio NIGP, we'll see you again when we come up with some more great information for you. And always think differently, because it's exciting. And to stay current in today's world, you're going to have to think differently constantly. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.